It was the biggest recruiting weekend of the Josh Heupel era, probably the Tennessee football era ever this past weekend. 27 official visitors. Who did Tennessee do well with? All that and more. It's coming up here on a Tuesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Make it Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every single day. Shout out you everydayers. Your part of the show is coming up later in segment number 3, where we answer your mailbag questions. But you guys know you can watch us, listen to us, subscribe to us, download us, all that for free wherever you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. And, of course, by subscribing on the Locked On Vols YouTube channel. Got a lot to get into here today. We're going to chat with Austin Price, VolQuest.com. He's going to tell us about the recruiting weekend and what went well for Tennessee. We'll discuss Tennessee's win over North Carolina Sunday night and how good Tennessee is right now sitting in Omaha, continuing on perfect in the College World Series. And, of course, we'll answer your mailbag questions in segment 3. This episode is brought to you in part by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager. You got to find the right people for you, and you can do that over at LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free over at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, without further ado, let's get into the man, the myth, the legend. This is Austin Price of VolQuest.com to tell us how Tennessee fared over the weekend. Austin, this was arguably the biggest recruiting weekend in terms of numbers that Tennessee's ever had, especially for the Josh Heupel era. 27 official visitors on campus. Let's start with the headliner. There was several that we'll talk about, but David Sanders, 5-star offensive tackle. He's been up here plenty of times here of late. How did Tennessee fare with David Sanders over the weekend?
I thought Tennessee did really well. They continue to do really well with David Sanders. I get some rival fans and coaches are going to use the spelling mishap from the name placement card at the dinner on Saturday against Tennessee, but the Sanders family are smart people. They're not going to make a decision of this magnitude based off of a low-level staffer hitting the wrong key on the keyboard. That everything I've been told, they kind of laughed it off, and everybody's been joking about it. And so I get fans and coaches of other schools are going to continue to try to use it against Tennessee. I don't think that really is going to work. That doesn't mean he'll end up here. I mean, he could easily end up at Georgia or Ohio State, but if he does not end up at Tennessee, it won't be because of the misspelling. And Tennessee did a great job. He's really close with George McIntyre. He has a great relationship with Kevin Pendleton, Glenn Ellerbe, Josh Heupel. Very comfortable at Tennessee. Just loves the culture, the atmosphere, everything about Tennessee. So as we head into his last official visit this weekend at Ohio State, I continue to feel like Tennessee is the team to beat. We'll see if Ohio State can change that this weekend, and then it becomes focus on a decision at some point in July or August.
A couple of other offensive linemen that were on campus for officials this past weekend. You had Nic Moore, who changed his commitment dates and decided to come in for an official visit, so that was good. How did that fare with Tennessee over the weekend? And then Juan Gaston, both guys probably playing in the interior, and Juan Gaston, of course, is a name that we've discussed on over at VolQuest for about a year now.
Yeah, for Nic Moore, I think it just boils down to, does he want to play defensive line or does he want to play offensive line, Eric? If he wants to play defensive line, he's going to go to West Virginia. If he wants to play offensive line, he's going to go to Tennessee. There's a likelihood that even if he goes to West Virginia to play defensive line, they could move him to the offensive line. And they're trying to use that to get him there. We'll see. They've been recruiting him longer than Tennessee has. And does that matter to the kid? Does distance for his family to come watch him play matter to the kid? All things I think you have to think about when you're talking about Nic Moore. So we'll see. Wouldn't say it's a lock to Tennessee. I know that. Very well could end up picking Tennessee, but any fan or anybody else thinking that this is just some lay down because he did not commit to West Virginia when he tried to impromptu commit last week. I don't think that to be the case. I think Tennessee still needs to continue to prove themselves here. I think they did that this weekend, and we'll see if they can get him in the boat sometime in the very near future. As for Juan Gaston, I'm not going to pretend to know what he thinks. He's a man of very few words, and I think anybody that thinks they know what Juan Gaston's thinking is setting themselves up, potentially be wrong. Could he go to Georgia? Absolutely. They're the closest school to him. I think he loves Oregon and everything about it, but is he really going to go that far away from home, from his family, all the way out there to Eugene? And probably a little easier to get to because he's in a hub like Atlanta versus like having to fly like in Knoxville to Atlanta to, Portland and drive down, or a double connection to Eugene if you're coming out of Knoxville. So, I think it makes it a little bit easier, but it's still a long ways away from home. So, he'll be at Oregon this weekend. We'll see what he says coming out of this week, but I think you're looking at some type of August decision for him.
It looked like initially Tennessee was going to take one tight end in this class, and of course got him early on. But then you move Emmanuel Koye over to the defensive line, opens up a spot that you'd like to add another tight end. Sam Brame is the name that everybody's been talking about, one of the best tight ends in this class. He was in on official visits. Is Tennessee becoming a true player for this coveted 4-star?
Yeah, I think they really are. I think they've been a true player for him. I think this weekend just solidified how deep they are in it for Deshaun Brame. He'll go to Oregon this weekend along with, Juan Gaston. And so those two will be around each other back-to-back weeks. We'll see what he does. He's from Kansas, just outside of, not too far from Oklahoma. They're the third team in this mix. I still think that it's Tennessee, Oregon. It just, to me, makes the most sense. And again, I think we'll see what he says coming out of this Oregon visit. But he's going to commit June 29th. So, the earth's getting big in the window in that one. So within the next 2 weeks, he's going to pull the trigger.
You said on the VolQuest podcast on Tuesday that Tennessee was not the perceived leader, was back in the pack for a couple 5-star wide receivers who were on campus, and Caleb Cunningham and Jamie Ffrench. Nothing about this weekend really changed your mind, but they were here for a reason. Feels like Tennessee did pretty well with them this weekend, and still two to watch, and obviously would be high level wideout targets if they ended up choosing Tennessee.
Yeah, they were here. You shoot your shot if you're Tennessee, but at the end of the day, they were trailing coming in, and nothing about this weekend made me think, oh, Tennessee's now the leader. Jamie Ffrench comes in and says, well, they're my top 3 now. You're just coming off a visit. Like, if something's wrong if they're not, up there. But at the same time, I just think that those two kids are, you continue to swing, you continue to recruit them. You also acknowledge, that one is, would be a pulling a rabbit out of a hat if you were to able to land either one.
Tennessee had a linebacker commit from Georgia and Jaden Prelati on campus for an official visit this weekend. Obviously talking about shooting your shot. How did Tennessee fare with a fellow SEC commits and trying to flip him to the Big Orange?
Knocked it out of the park. Did as well as you could possibly do. He will be at Georgia this weekend. I'm sure they'll try to squash the momentum Tennessee got and go from there. But Tennessee had a tremendous visit for Jaden Prelati, who, based off of him and based off a few other recruits, had the best time out of anybody this week.
It's always good to hear. And then, not lastly, but kind of last on these players that were here this past weekend, it looked like a pretty nice collection of edge defenders. We're not talking 1 or 2. We're talking about 3 or 4. Who were some of those names? And Tennessee obviously got he's probably going to play strong side defensive end, that 5-tech and Jaden Lofton. But edge is always a priority in this class. And how is Tennessee looking at that position heading into this class of 25?
Well, they've got Christian Gass coming in this coming weekend. But, they did a really nice job with Isaiah Gibson, the USC commit that most people don't believe will end up at USC. Tennessee, Georgia, again, those two teams are butting heads a lot for some kids. And that's a good thing if you're Tennessee. You got to win some battles because you're competing against the team that's won 2 of the last 3 national titles and really probably should have won it last year. Just picked the worst week to lose. If you can win some of these, that's a big deal. And Gibson's one that I think Tennessee, made a lot of inroads with this past weekend. Damian Shanklin, another defensive lineman from Indianapolis. I thought, Tennessee impressed. He told me that Tennessee was sitting 3-4 coming into the visit. He wouldn't say they were the leader. He wouldn't put a number on them, but he said they moved up. So whatever moved up means, right? Like they won, they 2. They're no longer 3 or 4. Either way, they impressed. And looks like that's another August-type decision for him.
And then out the door, you mentioned Glass coming in next week. 27 this past weekend. Right now, it's looking like maybe 11 or 12, so still quite a few, but not nearly as many. Not 2 dozen and some change. You're looking at about a dozen. Who are some other headliners coming in to conclude this month of OVs this weekend?
Well, you got Shady Hayward. You have Douglas Utu. You have Travis Smith. You have Bryce Donovan Jenkins. You have Onus Conan Bounty. So I mean, like there's some real, solid players, the heavy hitters coming in this weekend for what is back-to-back weekends, and then the second night at Neyland, where you'll have a few different players, including Graham Simpson, the younger brother of Ty Simpson, who will be a freshman this fall, coming in to participate in the Night at Neyland Part 2.
All right. As always, man, appreciate it. Feels like you and Matt Ray turned about 27 pieces of content on Sunday.
Matt Ray did it all, baby. Matt Ray did it all.
No better place to be locked in on Tennessee recruiting than over on the site, right?
That's right. Exactly right. Check us out at VolQuest.
Want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find the quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just like any other job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open for the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses can get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional. That's on LinkedIn. 2.5 small businesses are using LinkedIn right now for hiring, and you should too. Post your job for free over at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, well, they do apply. More coming up next here on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back in here to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. We'll get into your mailbag questions coming up in segment number 3. I do want to touch base quickly before we get into that on Tennessee's College World Series win in Omaha on Sunday night. Yes, I recognize this is Tuesday morning. I get all that, but as I've said, not getting in front of a camera at 12:30 at night after that game for a Monday show. Sorry about it. But here we are. And normally I would just say, okay, well, who cares? But Tennessee is in the College World Series. Tennessee is in Omaha. This is a major deal. And for the first time ever in Tennessee's 7 College World Series appearances, Tennessee has started 2-0. Even the 1951 team that went on to finish runner-up and finish in second place did not start the College World Series with a 2-0 record. This Tennessee team has, and Tennessee team did. And it was a game where early on, boy, it was a pitcher's duel. Drew Beam was really, really good for Tennessee. He took a no-hitter into the 4th. Yes, I know it's not that far, but took a no-hitter into the 4th. And he had been really good starting out the last couple of starts, but then you had that one bad inning and it all just kind of fell apart. And he flirted with that a couple of times on Sunday night, but it never got to the point. You credit him for having a 2-on, 2-out jam and finding a way to get out of it there to end the 4th or in the 5th. Credit him for not imploding there in the 6th inning when he had to be removed from the game after giving up a solo home run and then giving up back-to-back singles, and then he was taken out of the game in place of Kirby Connell. But Drew Beam was so much better than he's been. He had given up 14 runs in his last 13 innings coming into the start. And on Sunday, he pitched 5 innings where he gave up 1 run off 4 hits, 7 strikeouts, and 2 walks. That was on 73 pitches. That was Drew Beam. That was vintage Drew Beam, the guy that we've seen pitch here for 3 years, the guy that's going to be probably a second-round pick in the upcoming Major League Baseball draft in July. That's Drew Beam. That's who he is. He's always going to pitch the contact, but he's going to let his defense play behind him, and more on that here in a moment with Hunter Inslee. But Drew Beam was really, really good, and Kirby Connell just continues to be phenomenal this year. I mean, Kirby comes on, gets Drew Beam out of that jam, 2-on, no-out jam, okay? He pitches 2 innings of scoreless baseball where he gives up only 1 hit, 2 strikeouts, no walks on 22 pitches. He pitched in Friday's game, of course. I mean, Kirby pitches in just about every game. His value, tremendous. And he's been on every single College World Series team Tony Vitello has brought here to Omaha. He's not shy in the moment. He doesn't get rattled. And Tennessee's used him as one of their best stoppers all year long, and he was really, really good Sunday night. And, of course, Nate Snead finished it off there with 2 walks, no strikeouts, but 2 innings of scoreless baseball. So that was good to see. It was in the 4th inning when Tennessee got on the board. It was a 3-run home run by Kavaris Tears, and at the time, again, because it was such a pitcher's duel, and I think Tennessee got its first hit in the 4th inning as well, it felt like a 10-run lead because Tennessee was just not getting many base runners, not getting anybody on base, and then they finally got something happen. Then you hit that home run. It's like, oh man, it took us 4 innings just to get this. Boy, it feels like you got a touchdown lead. So I mean, that was able to give some cushion for sure. You had Reese Chapman that had a solo home run later in the game, and that was awesome. You had an RBI single from Dean Curley. That was great. You had an RBI double from Kavares Tears later on. He drove in 4 runs in that baseball game, and he was the story along with Drew Beam in Game 2. And essentially what you did when it was all said and done, North Carolina, who was the number 4 overall seed in the dance, North Carolina, who was a really, really good baseball team, you just cruised to a victory, 6-1. You had good pitching. You had timely hitting. When Tennessee does that, Tennessee's good enough to beat anybody. And, I mean, this game was never in jeopardy after that 3-run home run from Kavares Tears. So I just thought Sunday was a really, really good reminder of how good Tennessee is when they get 2 of the big 3 working, right? And you can beat anybody in the country, a team like North Carolina, and make it look like it was with ease. Kavares Tears, only Tennessee player to have 2 hits in that game. You had Semo that had a hit, Blake Burke had a hit, Dylan Drawling had a hit, Dean Curley had a hit, Reese Chapman had a hit, but Tennessee only had 7 hits on the day overall, and North Carolina only had 5 hits in the baseball game. Truly, really, really good pitching on both sides for this baseball game. But what this win means, as you already know by now, is Tennessee gets Monday and Tuesday off. Tennessee comes back on Wednesday and will play the winner of Florida State, North Carolina, who were set to play in an elimination game on Tuesday. They're going to play the winner of that game on Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. And if you win that game, you are going to the College World Series Finals. That starts on Saturday. Incredible. You win that game, you get 2 more days off. If you lose that game, then either Florida State or North Carolina, whoever you're playing, will have to do something that only one team has done all year long. And it was to begin SEC play all the way back in mid-March. It's beat Tennessee on back-to-back days. That team has got to beat Tennessee on back-to-back days on Wednesday and Thursday in order to send Tennessee home and knock them out. All Tennessee needs is 1 win. Tennessee is sitting pretty, for sure. It was the 11th win in the College World Series all-time for Tennessee. The first time Tennessee has started 2-0 in the College World Series. And, again, hats off to Drew Beam, hats off to Kavares Tears. Now, quickly before we shift gears here, Hunter Ensley. What a catch there to begin the second inning. Ran a mile, made a great catch on the run, and just went crashing into the wall, ricocheted into the wall, and, man, you knew it hurt. I mean, you could see it. You knew it hurt. He stays in the baseball game. He actually stays in, plays defense, comes in, has 2, goes to the plate 2 times, played defense 2 more innings, but you can see he was limping around a little bit, right? And so they take him out of the game in favor of Colby Backus. Spoke with Hunter Ensley after the game. He said, hey, essentially he was like, a lot of people say they'll run through a wall, but I actually did it. But he said he felt fine. Of course, we'll have to see. It's a very day-by-day process. We'll see exactly kind of how he looks and how he feels as the week goes on. But Hunter Ensley, very questionable, but Tennessee needs Hunter Ensley in the worst way for sure. Tennessee would love to get their starting center fielder back, and we'll track that as the week goes on. All right, when we come back, we'll get into your mailbag questions. That's coming up next, and we continue on here with a Tuesday Locked On Vols. Hey, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Summertime means baseball season. It means right now the last little bit of the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals. All that is happening right now in real life. And, of course, you can put some coin in your pocket over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Did you know that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook? Well, it's not #1 for no reason. It's user-friendly. You have so many different options. Individual prop bets are fun for me because if I'm watching a sporting event like hockey that maybe I'm not too – I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know enough about the sport to as I would like being in sports, journalism. I don't cover hockey, but still. But if I have individual prop bets on a specific game, I can pay attention to that, and then I'm learning the sport and having a good time, and obviously putting some coin in my pocket. So all that and more individual prop bets, you can do all that over at FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Again, that's $200 that you can use to bet on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit a home run in Major League Baseball. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon to add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, it is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, welcome back in here to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough for being here, making the show your first listen each and every single day. Really do appreciate you everydayers for coming back here, making it your first listen, your first watch each and every day. And now is your time as we take a look at some of the mailbag questions. Can't get to all of them here today, and I do apologize, but I do appreciate you guys for sending them in. This is coming from Matt. We'll lead off with Matt. Is Tony Vitello a top 10 coach in SEC, not just in baseball, but all major SEC sports? Looking at what he's accomplished in a relatively short amount of time, I think a conversation could be had about it. Would love to hear your thoughts. No, that's a really, really good question, but 100%. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and name a top 10 here, but I mean, off the top of my brain, Nick Saban is not coaching anymore, but, Kirby is there, obviously. I mean, you look at what Tennessee baseball has done the past couple of years and appearances in the College World Series. Then now you look at the run that Tennessee baseball is on right now. Top 10, I would say yes. Now, if you win a national championship, I say that's a slam dunk. But for sure, I think that the conversation is there. And I mean, we can get down to the nitty gritty and talk about appearances in postseason, talk about conference regular season championships, talking about how much money you make, what sport you're coaching, how much in turn brings in revenue for the school, and we can get into specifics. But I mean, when you think of college baseball right now, you're thinking of Tony Vitello, okay? And there's no way around that. So I think 100% deserving to be in the conversation. I think that he would be in terms of top 10 overall coach in the SEC just because of what he's done in 7 years here at the helm on Rocky Top. Let's go to Braden. Let's see. What team do you dislike the most and consider to be a rival outside of our big three? He's talking about for football. So obviously the big three is Florida, the big three is Alabama, and the big three is Georgia. So outside of the big three, which team do you dislike the most and consider a rival? That's a good question. I mean, I would probably say Kentucky because, again, I know divisions are going away, but I mean, my childhood is the SEC East. And so Alabama, I know, is in the West, but you play them annually. I mean, in September, it was decided if you were going to have a shot at winning a national championship or shot at, winning the SEC outright, or at least playing for the SEC, because you played Georgia and Florida in the month of September. So outside of those three, I'd probably say Kentucky because I understand Tennessee's historically owned Kentucky. The way a lot of people view Vanderbilt and just hate Vanderbilt so much is kind of how I am with Kentucky because I think that those games have been a little bit more competitive and there's been more games over the history of this series that I've watched at least that have been better games than that of Tennessee and Vanderbilt. So I don't view them like little brother like a lot of Tennessee fans do Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt, I'm indifferent. I just don't care, to be honest with you. South Carolina's in there, especially here of late because of the beatdown they gave Tennessee in 2022, which was unfortunate because it was such a magical year. I don't like Shane Beamer, but I would probably say Kentucky because it's a border bowl, right? I mean, it's got to mean something to you. It's a neighboring state, so Kentucky would be my answer. Number two, is there an injury update on Ethan Davis? Ethan Davis, I think that he's fine overall. I mean, they're going to be really, really careful with him, but yeah, I mean, nothing is wrong with him in terms of keeping him out of fall camp. Are you thinking of somebody? I mean, the tight end, Ethan Davis, right? I mean, yeah, he's. Put him in bubble wrap, as we like to say, but I think he's okay. Yeah, he's fine. Let's go to Willie the Kid. Out of these three walk-ons, Will Brooks, William Wright, and Deshaun Bishop, do you think any of them will have significant playing time? Good question. So William Wright was on the field for some of the biggest snaps, Tennessee, Alabama 2022. I mean, you'll just never forget that, right? I mean, what a moment. What a stage for him. He hasn't really played an awful lot since. That was kind of his biggest moment. Will Brooks has been a reserve safety each of the past couple of years. You've seen him on special teams, and in my opinion, he's going to be seeing the field a lot this year. I don't think he's going to be starting, but he'll be seeing the field a lot this year. He played a lot last year. And then Deshaun Bishop, because of the injury situation to Cam Seldon to begin the season, I think Deshaun Bishop could be RB2 to begin the year. Do you get Cam Seldon back? What does Peyton Lewis look like as a true freshman? And trying to play catch-up in fall camp. So my answer would be Will Brooks. But I think Deshaun Bishop will see a lot of playing time early in the season because Tennessee's a little thin at running back. If I had to start bench cut him, I'd probably start Will Brooks, bench Deshaun Bishop, and cut William Wright. His second question, what do you think Tennessee's chances are to land Nic Moore out of Jefferson County, your old stomping grounds, playing on the gridiron there? Yeah, heck yeah, man. Dumpling Valley, Leroy Shannon Field. A lot of memories. Missed a lot of tackles on that field, but had a blast. Yeah, Nic Moore, he actually prematurely kind of announced he was going to make a decision last week, and kind of backtracked on that and decided he wasn't going to do that. And Tennessee got him to campus for an official visit this past weekend, and that was good. I think what it comes down to is, does he want to play offense or defense? If he wants to play defensive line, I think that he's going to commit and go to West Virginia. If he wants to play offensive line, I think he's going to commit and go to Tennessee. It just kind of sees like, what does he want? Doesn't hurt that Spencer Riley is his head football coach. Of course, he was captain of the 1998 National Championship team here at Tennessee. Doesn't hurt, but obviously it does not mean that he's a slam dunk to Tennessee. That is for sure. Nic Moore's one to watch. His recruitment's come on here of late. Tennessee, got some interest here of late, but obviously they're making him a priority, and he, was on campus this past weekend, going through his official visit stuff. All right, we got a couple more here. Let's go to Rob, my guy, Roba22. Away from the ballpark, what has been the best thing about your trip to Omaha so far? And how did you react when you saw that Dillon's hit was going to be a walk-off? Did you keep your cool or jump around and yell like the rest of us? I definitely didn't jump around and yell. I couldn't do that in the press box. I'd get kicked out. I'm happy Tennessee won. I really am. Don't get me wrong. But like as a journalist and like as a beat writer, your goal is to have content as soon as the final whistle, as soon as the buzzer sounds, as soon as the out number 3 is made, the 27th out. Your goal is to have content ready to go. And so me, being good at my job, I like to think I'm good at my job. I had 2 pieces of content ready to go. All I had to hit was send. I had to tweet scripted. I will happily have this happen again, because if this means Tennessee continues to go on and win a national championship, heck yeah, I'd rather cover a national championship. But during that 4-run rally in the 9th inning, I'm like, they're Control Alt Delete. It's the only thing that was going in my mind. And when Semo got the double, I felt like I knew Tennessee was about to tie it. And I didn't know if Tennessee was going to complete it there in the 9th inning, but it was exciting, man. It was I was thrilled for Tennessee. It was the biggest win in Tennessee program history. I was annoyed that all my work was now not useful, but at the same time, it's part of it, man. Clemson game last year, same situation. It's just part of it. But no, it was a really, really cool moment. But being in the press box, can't jump up and scream. I wouldn't be welcome back in the press box for sure. But outside of the baseball stuff in Omaha, no disrespect, and I don't mean this as a slight or anything, but there's not a whole lot going on. The show, it's the greatest show on dirt. It is Charles Schwab. So I've been working a lot in the hotel, kind of like what I am right now, recording this podcast. There's a good old Perkins next door to the Media Hotel. Went there for breakfast the other night. Might drive down to Lincoln, check out Nebraska, University of Nebraska, over one of these off days coming up. So I look forward to that. Might go check out the old ball field before it was obviously Charles Schwab. So got some things on my to-do list, but right now not a whole lot of anything outside of what the games have been. Let's see here. Do you think the Tennessee-Florida game will ever be as big as you've seen it growing up? Do you think that Nico can lead us to a 3-0 record against our 3 biggest rivals this year? We'll see. Will Tennessee and Florida ever be like what it was? I don't know, because it's not a guarantee that Tennessee and Florida are going to play every year now, right? And it stinks because they played every single year since the divisions became a thing in 94. And I understand longtime Tennessee fans before, making a division could say the same thing about Auburn. I don't know if it'll ever be what it was, because it was so flippin' good. Fulmer, Spurrier. Again, your division was locked up by the end of September between Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida. Do I think Nico can lead us to a 3-0 record over the big 3 this year? Georgia's going to be tough. Georgia's going to be at home. I think 2-1 is very possible. Going a clean sweep of 3-0, I don't know about that. You better beat Florida. Florida, no excuse if you don't beat Florida this year. Let's go to Jared. Do you think UT finally got the break it needed in a big moment, the called check swing on Burke? Yeah, again, it's judgment calls, and so many of those judgment calls have gone against Tennessee in years past, and sure, a lot of them have gone for Tennessee, but we don't remember those, right? Purdue comes to mind. Jalen Wright breaking the plane didn't. The Music City Bowl comes to mind. so many different things. And yeah, for one to go, I'm just happy the umpire didn't end the game like that, because we don't watch the games for them to decide the outcome. We watch the games for the players to decide the outcome. And if it went the other way, and that was an FSU player, Tennessee fans would be irate, and deservingly so. Florida State fans are irate, and deservingly so. I get it. More so than anything, I'm just impressed that Burke stayed in the moment, took advantage of it, and won that game. Was Simo's cycle and ninth inning double the most valuable performance in UT baseball history to date? Yes, in my opinion, absolutely. Because you won a College World Series game on the biggest stage, obviously, and it positioned you so well in the winner's bracket. So, yes, in my opinion, that was. How in the world was Simo not a first-team All-American? Who votes on that? Different publications. There's a Golden Spikes Award winner that plays second base for Morgan State. He's a really, really good player, going to be a first-round pick. Still find a place to put Simo in that first team, right? Because, I mean, goodness gracious, DH, utility, whatever the case is. They usually preserve utility for two-way players, and so Jack Caglione will get that. But it's ridiculous, but don't you worry. There's more All-American teams to come out. One specifically, I spoke to somebody in the press box yesterday at the UNC game, and he said, don't you worry, Christian Moore is going to be a first-team All-American in our publication. Sam Smith says, who would you start on Wednesday, and why would it be Xander? I would start Xander because he's next up in the rotation. I understand there's off days and everything, but Tennessee likes to stick to the book. Tennessee's going to be well-rested, so if Xander's not pitching well, you can come in behind him. But I would go Xander because he's earned it, and he's pitching well right now, and he would still be on 4 days rest if Tennessee went to Game 3 of the College World Series Finals. So I have no reason not to pitch Xander Sechrest. Drew wants to know, and this is the last one we'll end on, who would we rather face on Wednesday, Carolina or Florida State? I don't want any more Florida State, and I'm not trying to diminish North Carolina because I think North Carolina is a good team, obviously. 4th overall seed, didn't get here by accident. Vance Honeycutt is going to be a top 5 pick for a reason, or top 10 pick for a reason. They've got some good pitchers. They got some good relievers that Tennessee didn't see either. North Carolina's a good team. Now, Florida State's really good. And I thought Florida State was Tennessee's biggest obstacle in advancing on to the College World Series Finals. So, sure, both those teams will have played the day before on Tuesday. They will be short-staffed a little bit. But I would 100% rather play North Carolina than Florida State again. That is just my opinion. All right, that is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Man, we blew through this one. Big thanks to Austin Price for stopping by and talking a little recruiting, recapping Tennessee's win 6-1 over North Carolina, and answering your mailbag questions. We'll come back. Hopefully, we'll talk with Josh Ward for a little Ward Wednesday for tomorrow's show and continue to get you set for Tennessee's run in the College World Series. We'll know at some point Tuesday afternoon who Tennessee will be playing in the College World Series game coming up on Wednesday, live from Omaha here. Follow me on Twitter if you want continual coverage at _Caner, and of course, over at VolQuest.com. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen. We will do it again on Wednesday. This is Locked On Vols.